All right, today we are diving into a really fantastic novella called The Fortunes of Barnaby Cratch. And it kicks off with a question that honestly gets right to the heart of it all. What happens when your conscience costs you, well, everything? So, picture this. It's London, 1851. The whole city is just buzzing, right? It's all about progress, industry, and this big idea of getting on. But then our guy, Barnaby Cratch, shows up, and he's carrying, as the author puts it, some antiquated furniture. You know, things like conscience, truth, principles. You can already feel the tension, can't you?
So yeah, here we have a man of conscience dropped right into a city that's all about compromise.
Okay, so to really get what Barnaby's up against, we need to talk about this idea of getting on. And look, this wasn't just about, working hard. It was about shameless self-advancement. It was the supreme virtue. Ambition was the name of the game. And Barnaby, he just wasn't wired that way. And this quote right here, it just lays his situation out so perfectly. Barnaby's not in London because he wants to be. He's not chasing some big dream. He's there because he's got no other options. The book says it all. He has principles, but no prospects. The man is completely and utterly trapped. And of course, that kind of desperation leads him straight to what the story calls the clerk's bargain. What's the price you're willing to pay for a little respectability? So Barnaby gets a job. He's a legal clerk. But his boss, this mysterious Mr. Catchpole, he pretty much immediately puts him in an impossible position. And the whole dilemma really comes down to one question. Is integrity a luxury? Is it something you can even afford when you're just trying to keep your head above water? And here's the deal, laid out plain as day. First, you handle some special documents, with a certain flexibility of conscience. Second, you see nothing, you hear nothing, you say nothing. Ask no questions. And for doing that, your salary almost doubles, from 12 shillings to a full £1 a week. It's security for sale. His fellow lodger, Charlotte Winslow, who is just a fantastic character. She nails it. She tells him, that's London. That's the bargain it offers. Survival in exchange for pieces of yourself. Wow. I mean, what a line. It's the idea that everyone sooner or later has to pay that price. And that price Charlotte's talking about, it's not abstract, it's real. It's the human cost hidden in the ink of those legal documents. And here it is, the cost, boiled down to one single devastating number, 300. 300 people are about to be evicted from their homes, and it's Barnaby's job to handle the paperwork. And get this, it's not some faceless company doing this. The whole thing is being run by Lord Ashford, a guy who is celebrated as a philanthropist. He's out there publicly talking about helping the poor, while behind the scenes, he's making a fortune by kicking them out of their homes. I mean, the hypocrisy is it's off the charts. So Barnaby, just eaten up with guilt, goes to the property himself, and he's confronted by a resident, Mrs. Fletcher, and she just levels him with this line that cuts right to the bone. She tells him, "Oh, you knew. You just didn't want to know. There's a difference. It's not that he was ignorant. He was choosing to be ignorant." And that's a whole different thing. And that moment, that's the spark. It's what ignites a rebellion. And this isn't a rebellion of generals or politicians. No, this is a rebellion of lodgers, the people with no power at all. And just look at this group. It's like a conspiracy of the powerless. You've got Charlotte, the disgraced governess, Mr. Foley, the failed inventor, a radicalized clerk, a Chartist widow, and of course, our man Barnaby, the complicit clerk. Every single one of them has been chewed up and spit out by the city. And they basically decide, you know what? We've got nothing left to lose. Let's fight back. This is it, the point of no return. Barnaby makes his choice. He breaks into his boss's office and he steals the documents, the proof. The one thing that can show this whole eviction scheme is a massive, corrupt conspiracy. He finally crosses that line from just being part of the machine to actively trying to break it. Naturally, that lands him in court. But this isn't just a trial about one stolen document. It very quickly becomes a trial of the whole system itself. And the case itself just lays out the whole conflict of the story. On one side, the prosecution says, look, this is simple. It's theft. He broke the law. But on the other side, the defense argues, no, this was a necessary act. He broke a small law to expose a much, much bigger crime, a crime the law was actually helping to cover up. When Barnaby takes the stand, he doesn't even try to deny it. He owns it, and he delivers this absolutely incredible statement. He says he regrets that we live in a world where crime is the only way to get to the truth. But does he regret exposing the conspiracy? He says, no, I would do it again. He's not just defending himself, he's putting the entire society on trial. So what's the verdict? Well, it's fascinating because it perfectly captures the two sides of this. On paper, legally, he's guilty of theft. But in the court of public opinion, he's a hero. He's vindicated. The trial causes this huge public scandal, and all that outrage actually starts to force real change. And all of this brings us to the end of the story, and a completely different way of thinking about what it means to have a fortune. So what happens next? Well, Barnaby does some time, but it's a short sentence. And within just a year, the Blackfriars evictions are stopped, permanently. Fast forward 2 years, and you find that Barnaby and his whole crew of rebels, they've all found new lives. Not rich lives, but lives full of purpose and integrity. And the changes are just incredible. Think about it. Barnaby went from being this complicit little clerk to a powerful writer fighting for reform. Charlotte went from being a kept woman to a teacher. Even their landlady, Mrs. Pardew, goes from being weary to being a host for radicals. They literally traded these lives of quiet desperation for something that actually mattered. And that brings us right back to where we started, with that big question. What is the only life worth living? The story leaves us with this beautiful, simple, and profound answer. A life you can look back on without shame. And that, right there, is a very different kind of fortune.